you are joining us today to talk about Mardi Gras. There's a meeting tomorrow between the crew of Centaur, crew of Gemini, and city leaders to talk about the route, the plan for the parades in February. And I wanted to have you on to talk about how big an impact these two parades have on our community. Let's start there. You've done studies. You have some numbers you can throw at us, right?
Yes. I'm actually out of town, and I've left some of it at the office, so I am trying to get it up on the computer, but I do have some numbers. So the main thing is Mardi Gras is not just a tremendous economic impact on our cities, but it also provides a great quality of life for our citizens and helps keep people working. People come into our community for Mardi Gras. They spend a lot of money. They have a great time, and they come back. So for a lot of our visitors, they repeat a number of times. So we need some of those key activities that bring people in for the first time so they can keep coming back. And Mardi Gras is one of those. We spend a good amount of money marketing Mardi Gras outside of our market to bring people in, and we have been very successful and have seen it grow over the last several years.
We've heard the figure of a $20 million economic impact. Is that pretty accurate?
That is very accurate. So that is looking at the direct spending of day trippers and overnighters in our community, and then also a little bit on the impact of the media coverage that is generated by Mardi Gras. So we also use this as a time to bring in travel writers, and so that those travel writers write about our area in publications. And so that we track that impact as well.
Stacy, this is Scott Hughes. Historically, I've heard there's three ways we get that economic impact. Obviously, the crews themselves do the floats. They buy the beads. They do a bunch of things leading up to it. Secondly, they have their events, their balls, their conventions, their crowning, their coronations. And then we get to the day of the event. Does it make a difference to you from the Convention Tourism Bureau, the route? That seems to be the big issue. Do we stay on the parkway? Do we go this long route to the neighborhoods? Do you think we get more or less people if we're doing the quote duck pond route, or if we have to stay on the parkway? Does that matter to the person coming in to Shreveport Bossier?
As far as the visitors, probably not as much, because they're probably not going to be the ones buying the spaces. Those are probably going to be more local people. As far as the experience, though, the parade going through a neighborhood does provide a little different experience. So it does add to that quality, but it's not a make or break, I don't think. I think it's probably the preferred route that it go in front of the duck pond. But if it were a choice, do we have it or not? I think we would definitely say it's worth having, whether or not it goes by the duck pond.
But if you could wave your magic wand, you would keep it as it is, Shreve City to the duck pond. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think you're talking about the final part of the route.
Yes.
I've ridden in both parades and enjoy going through that part of the route as well. The people along the route I know really enjoy it. A lot of people buy homes along that route because they want to be there. But then, of course, there are a few that say, I don't want this and leave for the weekend too. So you're never going to please everyone. The main thing is, making sure that it's a great, safe experience overall.
And year over year, Stacy, we hear that the Independence Bowl is the single largest event we put on. It markets the community. It brings people in. Where does Mardi Gras fit from the CVB's perspective in terms of events our community puts on? Is it number 2? Is it number 10? Where do you think it falls in terms of what you described earlier, marketing our community and bringing people here?
I think depending on the year, they run neck and neck. They're very different, and they bring different crowds. But as far as economic impact-wise, they're very similar. The Mardi Gras provides a longer period of time. It's over 2 major weekends. There are more events surrounding Mardi Gras, so a lot of times people will extend their stay a little bit longer. So it doesn't provide the national television coverage necessarily that Independence Bowl does, little bit different crowd, both very valuable events for our community.
I'm talking to Stacy Brown, who's the executive director of the Shreveport Bossier Convention and Visitors Bureau. Let me ask you this, Stacy. If the crux of this issue is we don't have enough police officers or firefighters to staff these parades going through the neighborhood, we can't afford to do it. We don't have the manpower. Is there a solution to that you have thought about that you would offer to the city and to the crews?
The key is really everyone working together to figure it out. And I know there have been a lot of discussions going on, and there are more upcoming. Because I'm not an expert on safety, so I definitely don't want to speak for the fire and police. But I do know that they're able to do it in the neighborhoods in New Orleans. So I think there's a way for us to do it here. But it's probably going to take more than just the city of Shreveport. Maybe other law enforcement officers from, the other cities, the parishes, others that are putting into that as well. Because we've had a great Mardi Gras, great, successful, safe Mardi Gras, and we want to keep it that way.
Funding for those officers. Are there other options? Is the Convention and Visitors Bureau possibly able to chip in money? Or, are there other neighborhood associations that could chip in money? Have we looked at all options, or do you think?
So a lot of that discussion is ongoing. But part of, when we talk about those huge economic impact numbers, a lot of people go, 20 million, that's just way, overinflated. But we actually have Dr. Scott Weissall, who does our economic impact study, and he and his team actually walk the parade route and count people. So they take a section of road and say, okay, there's X number of people, they're standing this close to each other, they're standing this far deep, and getting a very good estimate of the actual number of people on the route. They also do surveys of people and ask them, what are you spending? Are you staying overnight? Are you spending the night in a hotel? And so that way we're able to get a very secure number in our economic impact. But part of what we've also done is taken that to the next step to say, okay, these people are spending this money in our community. This is direct dollars. And, of course, taxes are paid on those dollars. And so that from the day trippers and the overnighters, that income plus the tailgate revenue, the city of Shreveport brought in about $500,000 in tax revenue from Mardi Gras.
Yeah,
the city of Bossier, even though the parade isn't on that side, part of those people stay over there. So about half of the people stay in Bossier. Some of them go shopping over there. It's not as great at economic impact, but it's probably around $230,000 or $35,000.
Mm-hmm. So, and my last question, Stacy.
That's direct tax dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that the return on investment, I think, is one of the keys. One of my last questions here is, I've heard the Lieutenant Governor speak, and he is in charge of tourism. I know you have a great relationship. Are there any state resources that could come into play if it purely becomes just a grant funding situation beyond just a manpower issue? Is there anything the state could do to help us?
We're always looking for other opportunities, and there's some ongoing conversations. So that is definitely something to be considered.